Hello, welcome to the morning edition of MBC News, and you are with me, Evelis Chingambe. Our top stories. Beneficiaries of the lean season food distribution exercise advised to report any malpractice that may rise during and after the exercise. Parliament refers to Legal Affairs, a petition that will allow the use of indigenous and sign languages in the House. And former Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Colleen Zamba, spends another night in police custody. Thank you for joining us. Now the news in detail. Beneficiaries of the launched lean season food distribution exercise have been advised to report any malpractice that may rise during and after the exercise. Vice President Dr. Jane Ansah gave the advice when she launched the exercise in Zomwe and Mchinji districts. More in this report.
The launch of the Lean Season Food Response Program in Icheu is part of government's ongoing efforts to support vulnerable households with food aid, especially those facing acute hunger due to the impact of drought, floods, or rising inflation. First Vice President Justice Dr. Jane Ansah, retired, has since described the Food Relief Response Program as key towards addressing the hunger situation.
It's in line with what our President, Professor Peter Mutharika, has said, that he will not allow that anyone in Malawi should die of hunger. So those people that are at the risk of dying from starvation, those are the people we have targeted, that they should have food. That's why we are here to distribute to those needy families.
A beneficiary of the program, Fegnes Machira, described the food distribution exercise as a relief to vulnerable households, adding that the initiative will help her support her household.
The food distribution exercise will greatly help me because I take care of orphans and I end up doing piece work to support them. So this will help a lot.
Icheu district became the 6th district to launch the food distribution exercise out of the 28 districts. Government plans to roll out the relief food distribution exercise as a way of supporting those in need of food aid. Trust Office, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Chief Secretary in the Office of the President and Cabinet, Justin Saidi, has commended the Malawi-Scotland partnership in complementing Malawi's development efforts. Saidi made the remarks in Zomwe during the 2025 annual general meeting of the organization. Olive Perry reports.
Established in 2005, the Malawi-Scotland partnership aims at supporting the coordination of Malawi's link with Scotland, among others. Speaking during the annual general meeting, Chief Secretary in the Office of the President and Cabinet, Justin Saidi, said through the partnership, the Scottish Government has supported Malawi in areas of education and healthy care, among others, which have made significant difference in the lives of Malawians. Saidi then urged various stakeholders in the country to continue being transparent in project delivery to achieve the intended success.
As government, to request all those organizations that are supported to be transparent and accountable. That's the only way that we will get trust of our party, and they will be able to do quite a number of programs. Because as a country, we have several programs, and those programs need Scotland's support.
Board chairperson of the Malawi-Scotland partnership, Phoebe Chifungo, said despite the network facing challenges due to climate change, they have still made remarkable achievements.
We have got exchange visits. We have got Scottish students coming to Malawi, and we have got Malawian students going to Scotland. They go there physically, but also exchange of knowledge. You know, there's power in knowledge exchange. So we have this knowledge exchange whereby people connect even online. Scottish people, especially the students, they gain what Malawian students are doing. And Malawian students are also gaining a lot of experiences from what the students in Scotland are doing.
Speaking in a video address, Scottish First Minister John Sweeney pledged continued support to the partnership. The Malawi-Scotland partnership has since launched its 2026 to 2030 strategic plan. The annual general meeting was held under the theme 20 Years of Scotland in Malawi, a strategic future for all. Olive Piri, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Government has reconstituted some boards of directors for various parastatal institutions whose tenure had expired. The appointments, which are effective from 4th December 2025, are as follows. Pharmacy and Medicines Regulatory Authority appointed members: Ms. Charlotte Misoya, Chairperson; Professor Adamson Mola; Ms. Cecilia Tembo; Mr. Patrick Godeza; Ms. Dr. Wachmota Piri; Dr. Patrick Chikungwa; Mr. Keith Lepato; Mr. Elos Lodzeni; Ms. Ruth Kasaliga. Malawi College of Health Sciences appointed members: Andrew Gunda, Chairperson; Reverend Charles, Deputy Chairperson; Martha Makwero, Council Siamo Mikios; Dr. Albert Mafongo, Rose Kapaizi; Dr. John Mponda, and Chansey Kamba. Malawi Blood Transfusion Services: Dr. Grace Chiwutsu, Chairperson; Dr. Yohani Mlombe; Dr. Precious Magondi; Dr. Mercy Nkandawire; Hilarious Nampota; Sheikh Faisal Kasam; Council Barton Muhango, and Reverend Chimwemwe Mtua. Central Medical Stores Trust: Baluso Banda, Elube Chienda, Dr. Patrick Kamalo, Tadala Hamisi, Vuso Tembo, Dr. Kelita Akamoyo, Dr. Philos Bonongwe, and Happy Magala. Medical Council of Malawi: Dr. Tandi Mabedi, Chairperson; Dr. Kundwani Kawaza; Dr. Agnes Moses; Dr. Jesse Namalika; Dr. Peter Chimimba; Dr. Gladys Kadama; Green Mamondwe; Solomon Chomba; Philip Chilemba, and Silas Nkandawire. Nurses and Midwives Council of Malawi: Dr. Martha Masamba, Chairperson; Harriet Chanzi; Angela Chiwota; Professor Chrissy Kabonda; George Nkoma; Munafasi Elongwe; Haj Dighton; Shouts Semeza, and Dr. Chimwemwe Mula. Moving on to our next item, Parliament has passed a constitutional amendment bill which establishes the Constituency Development Fund (CDF) as a constitutionally recognized fund. Once the President assents to the amendment, the Ministry of Justice will draft the specific legislation that will govern the administration and management of the fund, which will then be debated and enacted by Parliament. This process is intended to strengthen the legal framework of CDF, enhance transparency, improve oversight, and promote accountability in the management of the fund. Meanwhile, parliamentarians have referred to Legal Affairs a petition calling for the formulation of parliamentary standing orders that will allow the use of indigenous and sign languages in the House. Member of Parliament for Zomba City North, Besta Awali, delivered the petition he received on 13 November this year from the Center for Democracy and Economic Development Initiatives and Lost History Foundation on the inclusion of indigenous languages and translation facilities alongside the English language in Parliament.
I was presenting in the chamber a petition that I received from CDET and the Lost History Foundation that was presented on 13th November 2025 this year, that sought to ask the Parliament to include in the standing orders indigenous language that could be used as the deliberations are underway in the August House. Apart from the English language that is normally used in the August House, these civil organizations thought it wise that the indigenous people out there do not take part in the deliberations, especially when it is in session Parliament, they could not understand, they could not fathom what is being discussed. So as a way of bringing Parliament to the people, they have sought Parliament so that we include in the standing orders that as part of deliberations we include indigenous language especially, but in particular Chichewa, so that a lot of people out there could discern what the deliberations are all about. I'm subscribing to this call because when we go around our neighboring countries such as Lesotho, Botswana, South Africa, and even Tanzania, they do deliberate in English, and also they do consider their indigenous language, so that the constituents or the masses out there should also follow the proceedings in their national assemblies.
You're watching MBC News and you are with me, Evelis Chingambe. A reminder of our top stories. Beneficiaries of the lean season food distribution exercise advised to report any malpractice that may rise during and after the exercise. Parliament refers to Legal Affairs, a petition that will allow the use of indigenous and sign languages in the House. And former Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Colleen Zamba, spends another night in police custody. Welcome back. Deputy Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare, Martha Zomwe, has encouraged beneficiaries of the Social Cash Transfer Program to utilize the funds wisely to transform their livelihoods. Ngwira made the remarks in the area of Traditional Authority Showere in Doha, where she inspected the registration process for the program. More in this report by Madalito Muhango.
Government is implementing social cash transfer in several districts, including Doha, to enable ultra-poor households to move out of poverty and improve people's livelihoods. Speaking during her visit to beneficiaries of social cash transfer program in Doha, Deputy Minister of Social Welfare, Martha Zomwe said she was impressed by the impact the program is having on the people in the district. Ngwila added that government will consider increasing the amount of money the beneficiaries receive to help transform their lives.
The people who have received social cash transfers money, they benefited a lot. My ministry will make sure to increase the number of the people that benefit from this program. Last, I just want to thank the President of this country, Professor Mutharika, just because of this program.
Doha District Council Principal Social Welfare Officer Ndamiwe Msisia has urged the ministry to increase the number of households due to high level of poverty in the district. Msisia said only 10% of ultra-poor households are currently benefiting from the program.
Normally, when you look at the poverty levels, even how the country defines its poverty levels, it's not only 10% who are ultra-poor, it's a larger percentage. But due to funding limitations, we can only afford to give 10% of the households the social cash transfer program, which means there are other also vulnerable and ultra-poor households who could have benefited if we had that possibility of reaching out to more.
One of the beneficiaries, Kumbizega Jugumba, applauded the government, saying it has enabled her improve her economic well-being.
I am one of the beneficiaries of the social cash transfer program. With the money I have received, I have managed to buy a goat and a pig. I believe that if this program continues, a lot of people will benefit.
Doha District targets to reach out to 19,000 ultra-poor households with the social cash transfer program. Over 16,000 ultra-poor households have been registered in the program this far. Madalito Muhango, MBC News, Doha.
Former Secretary to the President and Cabinet Colleen Zamba has spent a second night in police custody after she failed to appear in court on Thursday. Zamba, who was arrested on Wednesday at Kamuzu International Airport, is facing charges of abuse of office. Her lawyer, Sylvester Ayuba James, told NBC that although the police recorded her statement earlier on Thursday, they later indicated that they would not take her to court later in the day. James further disclosed that the police have obtained a search warrant for Zamba's phone. Ayuba James explains.
Well, we have seen charges relating to abuse of office, That's all we know. But there has also been obtained a warrant to perhaps search her mobile gadget. I don't know for what purposes, but the warrant is just a broad warrant, which does not specify what is meant to be discovered on the phone. So about the charges, for now, we have what they call abuse of office.
As of 2020, Malawi's public debt burden stood at 4 trillion kwacha. 5 years later, under the Lazarus Chakwera administration, the debt burden grew 5 times to 21.6 trillion kwacha. This development has raised the interest payment from 250 billion kwacha to 2.3 trillion kwacha per year. This amount is half of the 5 trillion kwacha projected revenue for the 2025-2026 fiscal years. Our reporter, Trust Officer, analyzes the impact of this debt burden on the economy as well as the implementation of the national budget.
The theme of the DPP campaign leading to the current administration was to deal with economic challenges the country has been facing, key among them being the fuel and forex crisis, the food shortages, as well as high rates of inflation. Despite setting the tone to address the challenges, Malawi's high public debt remains a stumbling block to Malawi's economic recovery efforts, as well as the implementation of the 2025-2026 national budget. This is a concern that even President Professor Mutharika shared with the delegation of the International Monetary Fund.
We are heavily indebted, both with private and also official institutions. Heavily indebted, and we have to restructure them. At the moment, all the revenue we get actually going into debt servicing, and to keep borrowing more and more just our day-to-day affairs of government, of state.
According to the 2024 African Development Bank country report, Malawi needs to address the debt burden with an immediate debt restructuring process. The report highlights that the prevailing trends may cripple Malawi's efforts to finance its development due to high interest payments and a widening budget deficit. Finance Minister Joseph Mwanaveka is however hopeful that ongoing negotiations to restructure debt as well as new revenue measures through the introduction of several taxes may help restore stability.
Or the revenue measures that we have put in the budget, I think the aim is that we should mobilize as much as possible so that we reduce the gap between our expenditure as well as the revenue. And when we reduce the gap or the deficit, and it means we are now moving towards sustainability. So I think that's what we want to achieve going forward.
While commending government for the steps it has taken to restore macroeconomic stability, the Malawi Economic Justice Network, MEGIN, stresses that enforcing a ban on the exportation of raw minerals will help the country raise its revenue, which is key in reducing the budget deficit.
This government came in with a bang in a way, because what they did really was to ban any exportation of be it raw materials or finished product in terms of mining extractives. That's a good step for starters. But we need then to appreciate, is it really true that samples are not going out? That's another thing. Have we put clear-cut enforcement mechanisms that we would be able to say we are able to trace who are the miners that are there, who are the companies that are operating in mining sector?
Minister of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining, Jean Matanga, discloses that government will start enforcing the ban on the exportation of raw minerals once adequate civic education and several steps are taken to bring all concerned parties on board.
Once we do that, we provide the market, we put them into cooperatives, we reach out to them with messages that should stop them from being exploited by foreign traders.
Resolving the forex and the public debt crisis may not be an overnight task. It needs the collective efforts of the citizenry in paying taxes, quick action on the part of government to restructure debt, as well as transparent and efficient utilization of Malawi's mineral riches to boost revenues critical for debt repayment, as well as budget implementation. Trust Office, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Malawi needs to invest in training psychosocial officers who will help in managing mental health issues related to HIV and AIDS. Advocacy and Marketing Officer at AIDS Healthcare Foundation, Davis Machumu, said this in Lilongwe as organizations continue to commemorate World AIDS Day. Beatrice Mape has more.
Reports indicate that there is a connection between HIV and AIDS and mental health issues. Depression and anxiety are some of the mental health challenges said to be triggered by stigma, social exclusion, and lack of awareness, leading to poor adherence to HIV care and use of HIV and AIDS prevention services such as testing and drug uptake. Michelle Musa, a resident of Chinsapo, says some of the issues affecting people's response to HIV and AIDS and triggering mental health issues is lack of understanding and failure to follow procedures as advised by health professionals.
Many people don't follow procedures. For example, it is advised to go for HIV testing alone, but others take friends or even lovers. When the results come out different from expectations, the friends or partners share the confidential information with others. They end up being ashamed and others getting discouraged.
Advocacy and Marketing Officer at AIDS Healthcare Foundation, Davis Machumu, says the impact of HIV and AIDS on a person's mental health is huge, and the absence of psychosocial services in many health facilities remain a big challenge affecting efforts in managing HIV and AIDS in the country. He says there is need for government to recruit more psychosocial professionals or make use of already existing officers like HSAs to address the challenge.
We saw a problem in terms of the issues of mental health, so we started the recruitment of these people and deploying them in these facilities so that they support patients in terms of mental health. You know, much as I do that, issues of HIV, AIDS, when it comes to making a patient aware of her or his status, it is difficult to accept. So you require professional services that maybe the person could be cancelled and then being told the message. So it is very important.
Senior Social Welfare Officer at Lilongwe District Council, Sky Morocco, has acknowledged that continued existence of stigma has been a barrier contributing to mental health issues related to HIV and AIDS. Morocco says they will ensure they raise more awareness and make use of the mainstreaming policy to address mental health in HIV and AIDS cases.
As government, I think we introduced a mainstreaming policy that has been advocated and launched in Parliament. So I think we're going to use some of the procedures and strategies that are used in the mainstreaming policy to tackle this issue of HIV and AIDS.
Currently, AHF is recruiting cadres who are deployed in government facilities in Lilongwe, Ncheu, Dedza and Nkotagota to provide psychosocial support such as acceptance, drug adherence, behavior change, depression and anxiety screening for people who seek various medical help, including HIV and AIDS services. The expectation, therefore, is that other stakeholders will join the efforts to help government by training more psychosocial workers to manage mental health issues related to HIV and AIDS, currently said to be on the rise. Beatrice Mabe, MBC News, Lilongwe.
And that item concludes this edition of MBC News. A recap of our top stories before we leave. Beneficiaries of the lean season food distribution exercise advised to report any malpractice that may rise during and after the exercise. Parliament refers to Legal Affairs, a petition that will allow the use of indigenous and sign languages in the House. And former Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Colleen Zamba, spends another night in police custody. For more on these and other stories, scan the QR code at the top right corner of your TV screen. You've been with me, Evelis Chingambe. Thanks for watching and good morning.
Good morning, and it's time for weather forecast. We are currently expecting partly cloudy conditions to persist over the northern part of the country, but we are expecting cloudy conditions accompanied by isolated thunderstorms and rains, as well as windy conditions to persist over most areas in the south, as well as in some areas over the central. This is all due to the influence of this high pressure system, which is pumping in southeasterlies into the country and converging with easterlies and influencing these activities. This is why this morning cloudy conditions are persisting over the country, accompanied by isolated thunderstorms and rains, as well as windy conditions. It's foggy this morning as well over most areas in the south, but it's also mild in most areas such as Blantyre and Mwanza at 20 degrees Celsius, 23 over Mangoshi, Monkey Bay and Ngabu. But it's a little bit cool in most areas over the central as well as the northern part of the country. This afternoon, we are expecting cloudy conditions to persist over the country, accompanied by localized thunderstorms and rains, as well as windy conditions. Temperatures are also expected to remain hot over most areas in the north as well as lakeshore areas, but we should expect warm temperatures over most areas in the south, as well as some areas over the central. I'm Tapua Kulamudu. Be wise, be weather-wise.
Through Christmas colors, join me in this edition of Contemporary Christmas Colors. This is where happiness, love, and dance is shared.